It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Sproles, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. A lot of different things to get into today. Utah State men's basketball back in action tonight in the Spectrum, taking on their third Mountain West Conference team of the season. It's the Wyoming Cowboys in town this week, or tonight, I should say. And so we'll preview Wyoming. We'll hear from the coach, what he has to say about the matchup tonight. Big game to decide the national champion of college football last night. And Utah State football has some news. Some players announcing they're coming and some players announcing they're leaving. So we'll give you some updates on the latest in the transfer portal. Even though the portal closed a week ago, there's still some players announcing their intentions of where they are, where they're headed. At least you can put your name in the portal up until January 4th, but the coaches can still talk to those players who are in there, and then they can still declare their intentions of where they want to go. So Utah State has gained some, and they've lost some in the process.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was one player, at least I know of, that announced after the portal had closed. But like I said, they can announce it whenever they want. They just have to be in by the 4th.
Yes.
And that was, I assume, the case for at least one player. And obviously entering by the 4th, but you do not have to commit by then. So obviously there's going to be a string of commitments for a lot of players. I think a few days before the portal closed, the numbers I saw were that there had been at least 2,000 or almost 2,000 at that point. We probably crossed that. But 1,300 of them were still available. So it's not like all of them had to commit by the 4th. So
yes,
a few players committing in the last couple of days. So more commitments than announced departures for the Aggies, and some exciting ones, including an exciting one today that's going to create quite a competition in the offseason at a key position for the Aggies.
A crowded, very important position. And you look at the numbers coming back, or the accumulated stats in that room. Wow. It's going to be quite a competition.
Stats, snaps, Division I experience. The Aggies are going to have Blake Anderson's going to have quite the decision on hand this upcoming offseason. Spring ball, fall camp. Need to find a way to sneak into practice a few times.
Yes. We'll see what we can do. That'll be very, very interesting. So we'll get into that. We'll give you the latest there, reveal who those players are, and update the latest transfer tracker that Jason Walker's been updating. It's kind of a living document these days. It's constantly updated.
Yeah, I just have to keep going in every other day or so. And pretty sure I've updated everything as of today. And that's quite a few players at this point.
Yeah, so we'll give us some updates on that. But let's focus on Utah State basketball. Big game tonight, taking on the University of Wyoming. This is a team that's barely in the top 200 in the net. Not particularly a strong team like we've seen in the past with Coach Linder. He had a good 2021 season. High expectations for 2022. They weren't met because they had a lot of injuries, and then players decided they didn't want to be there anymore. And 2023, he remade his roster, not to the degree of Danny Sprinkle, but pretty close. And it's not really worked out full of roses in Laramie so far.
Yeah, they're sitting at 8-7, which is not terrible, but they're not great. And you mentioned how much they had to remake their roster. Yeah, I think of the 9 players that are basically in the rotation, guys who have played a bunch of minutes or at least in a lot of games, at least 10 games, and I included one guy who came back from injury, so he's in the rotation. And of those 9, I think was 7 are either transfers or freshmen playing their first action this year. I think it was Brendan Wenzel and Caden Powell, who are the only players who essentially returned from last year's rotation and are playing consistent minutes. There was actually another guy who returned, but he's injured for the year. So
That's just
the luck just never ends for Wyoming.
No, not really. Particularly notable schedule to this point, as you detailed. 8 wins, 7 losses. Currently 1-1 in conference play. So they beat San Jose State in a close game in Laramie, 75-73, and then they got beat up in Albuquerque, losing in the pit 77-60 to New Mexico last week. And then tonight they're in Logan to take on the Utah State Aggies.
Yeah, so back-to-back toughest venues in the conference for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Would only have been made worse if they'd also traveled to San Diego State.
If that was in the mix.
Yeah, well, I'll watch. That'll be their next game. And I'm not.
It's a few weeks from now,
Okay.
January 23rd.
There, they get a bit of a break after this.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a team that has some potential to kind of put points up. They've not done it a ton. Usually the times where they've scored a lot of points have been against lower teams, sub 200, teams in their schedule as far as net or KenPom ranking. They have some guys that can shoot it and, put it in the bucket. You got, they're all transfers. Sam Griffin, he's a transfer. He was at UT Arlington, then Tulsa. A lot of experienced transfers, actually. A lot of their transfers are like 4-year D2 guys, or as I mentioned, Sam Griffin spent 4 years at a couple of other schools. Akul Kott, he was one of the D2 guys. But Griffin, he's second in the conference at scoring per game right now at about 18.5 points. He's just a hair ahead of Great Osborne right now. And they're both behind Jaden Ledee of San Diego State. But Griffin, he's lighting it up efficiency-wise. He's dang near he's 47% from the field, 43% from 3. Like, this guy is going to put up shots and he's going to make those shots.
Yeah, it does a lot of things on the court. Averages about 4 rebounds a game, 3.5 assists a game. He usually gets a steal every game. A good solid shooter, 43.5% from 3. So he's a playmaker. The question is, does he get enough help around him?
Yeah, and there's some help, and it's kind of weird because when I look at the roster, I see some talented guys. Because you've also got, I mentioned, he's averaging 15 points a game. Wyoming's actually one of 3 teams in the conference that has multiple guys in the top 11 in scoring per game. And the others, I think the other was Boise State and Nevada, I think, were the other 2. 2 teams expected to be pretty good and have been pretty decent. Mason Walters, he was the guy who was like a star, like the NAIA level. He was like 4-year, I think, Jamestown. And he was like 3-time, like All-American at that level. NAIA, like Player of the Year. He's been injured a lot of the year, though, actually. So I don't know how much of that's played. Walters only played 5 games. So in several of those games they've played, that's included like BYU and New Mexico. So they've still not won a ton of games since he's been back, but they were playing some tough teams in his return. So like they've got some talented guys, but they just don't seem to be putting it together. You'd think they'd have help around him, but they're not really, just for some reason, not putting it together. And I think the one reason why I should say they're not really putting it together is turnovers. And there are other interesting things about this offense, but they rank, I think it was 349th in turnover rate.
Averaging about 15 a game.
Yeah, it's bad. And that kills any offense. It doesn't matter how efficient you are at shooting the ball. And Wyoming is, at certain areas of the floor, really efficient. 3-pointers, free throws. But when you look at Griffin, he's averaging 18 points, 3 turnovers. Which isn't too bad for your leading scorer, but then you also get Kott, he's averaging almost 3 himself. Mason Walters, 2.5 turnovers. Like, they've got a bunch of different players averaging 2+ turnovers. And it's just too much.
In their win against San Jose State, only 5 turnovers for Wyoming.
That's probably how they won that game.
In their loss to New Mexico, 23 turnovers for Wyoming.
That's just you never win games when you turn the ball over that much. It's almost a miracle that they're able to average 70 points a game with how much they turn the ball over. And the thing is, the Aggies, they rank 68th in forcing turnovers. So
there's going to be a lot of points off of turnovers.
Yeah. So for the
likely
Aggies
tonight in the Spectrum.
Yeah, that's the key for the Aggies is getting a bunch of turnovers and a lot of transition points. The Aggies are a spectacular transition team. I know we talked about how good Colorado State was in transition, where I think I mentioned they were like Colorado State was like 6th in transition points. Utah State is 5th, like in transition efficiency. So Utah State's good in transition. I think they're going to get a lot of points that way. Assuming things go well for the Aggies, you never want to assume, because this is that kind of trap game. Because when you look at Wyoming, they're not playing very well. They're not playing super well, I should say. They are still 8-7. But they have a team that's capable of going off. You look at their three-point shooting ability. They don't shoot a ton of threes. I think what was their rank in three-point attempts per game? I have it written down somewhere in this mess. 322nd in three-point attempts per game. They actually attempt them less often than the Aggies do. The Aggies shoot 31% from three. Wyoming shoots 39% from three. Wyoming doesn't know how good they are at three-pointers. And it's worse because there's actually a couple players underperforming their career averages on the team.
Underutilized opportunity for the Cowboys.
Yeah, like because Mason Walters, he was like a 37% shooter at his previous spot. He's shooting like 23%. Brandon Wenzel, he spent the last 2 years averaging like 35, 36%. I think he's shooting 28%. They do have guys, obviously their percentage is that high for reasons. Griffin's at, as I said, 43%. Akul Kot's at 40%. They've got a freshman off the bench who's shooting 53% on decent volume. But, like, that three-point percentage is almost underselling how potentially good these guys can be because they got 5 or 6 guys that can potentially light it up from three based off of their shooting pedigree in their career, both now and previously. And that can come alive at any second.
Yeah. And
that can sink you. The team just randomly hit like 18 threes in a game. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's why you got to still be really vigilant against this team. Is if they start feeling it and they go, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and Utah State, as you mentioned, kind of a trap game here. They could be. You have to be careful not getting too excited and celebrating for too long after that big win on Saturday, and lose sight of Wyoming could be potentially dangerous if they start hitting from the outside and get hot. And then that top 20 ranking, it will vanish so fast.
Yeah, it'll be gone. It'll be like there, and then it's gone.
Yep.
And it's gone.
But let's hear from Coach Danny Sprinkle, what he has to say about this team. Thankfully, Al Lewis was early to practice because they ended early.
Just rubbing it in.
They kind of surprised us yesterday. But Al Lewis was there. He's very diligent on that. And he was able to catch up with Coach Danny Sprinkle to preview Wyoming and what kind of challenges the Cowboys may present in the Spectrum tonight.
Wyoming, we know the opponent coming in here. They have our attention, they have our respect, and we had a good practice today. I felt like our film session went good, and our guys realized, they got a couple guards that can really go get it. They can really score the basketball. They're one of the top three-point shooting teams in the country percentage-wise. But where I think they really get people is they do a great job getting the ball to the free throw line. They're very kind of simple in what they do, but they're very effective. They'll side post their bigs. Mason Walters, they do a great job passing the ball post to post, and so we have to be ready to guard without fouling and be able to guard for the whole clock like we did a couple times on Saturday night.
So Shelton and Cott are really good shooters. It looks like they got about 3 or 4 guys that really shoot it for them, but those 2 guys. But then how do they get more than 100 free throws over the opponent so far? Do they really try?
Well, they do. They do a great job just keeping it simple. Like they'll just run basic ball screen stuff, and they make great reads out of it. And then when you help too far, that's when they hit a post on a short roll, and then they're playing 2-on-1 kind of in the paint. And so their post guys are very skilled and very good at what they do. And when they side post you, they want you to be undisciplined and leave your feet, and that's when they jump in and draw fouls.
So is Shelton the guy who has the ball most of the time? for them?
Sam Griffin.
Yeah, right. Griffin.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
Shelton, but it's Griffin.
Yeah. He is. They spread it around. Him and Cott. Like those are the two. They're very dynamic with the ball in their hands. They're very hard to keep in front of. They got excellent quickness, and when they have the ball, they're aggressive. And when they drive, when you have to help if they get by you, that's when their post guys do a great job. Relocating to kind of penetration spots and making plays.
Now, did you coach against Coach Littner at Northern?
Yeah, my first year he was at Northern Colorado.
Does he have a style or something that you see?
It's completely different than Northern Colorado. He's a tremendous offensive coach. At Northern Colorado, they played similar to how Colorado State did the other night. Like, they were one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, and the pace that they played at was crazy. And he's done a great job, like, adjusting to his personnel. Last year when they had, EK and Maldonado, like, they couldn't play the same way they did at Northern Colorado. Like, he played to his players' strengths, and that's why, they were really good the last couple of years too. And, they're playing more that style than kind of the 5-out, shooting a bunch of threes like he did at Northern Colorado.
And this was the game we were waiting for Max to play against Wyoming. I was wondering, you mentioned he might have surgery. Have you heard anything?
He did have surgery. He's doing good. He's doing good. He had surgery on I believe it was the 22nd, the day we played East Tennessee State. And he's recuperating. I think he'll probably be back here hopefully the end of the week or the first of next week. He has to get some stitches out, and I still wanted to keep him down there with his doctor for at least one more week.
Is he saying anything to the guys about playing Wyoming, do you think?
No, he still has friends on the team, and obviously, enjoyed his time there with those guys. And so, yeah, he has. A lot of their players are new, and so, even their play calls and like some of the stuff they're doing is a little bit different than when he was there. So, unfortunately, he hasn't been too much of a help for us. Yeah.
You said after the game a lot, okay, we're going to celebrate till midnight.
Yeah.
Do you feel the notice of everybody kind of this? You said this team has an knack of just getting back to work no matter what has happened.
They do.
You feel that still?
Yeah, they do. And yesterday, we didn't do anything on the court, but we just came in and watched film. On the Mountain West, there's the way the schedule is. There's no days off. There's no way we could have taken yesterday off and just prepared for one day for Wyoming. And so our guys came in, they were excited, but they still they were focused on the task at hand, and I think they realized, and we got our point across even today, tomorrow's game is just as important as Saturday. Saturday's game, Air Force counts the same as the Colorado State. Every league game is different. Every league game is going to be tough, and you have to be mature enough to handle them one by one.
You have a reaction to being in the top 25 now?
No, you kind of know me now. I don't. It's kind of like I told at a luncheon today, that it's just rat poison. To steal Nick Saban's term. If we're ranked top 20 in the country at the end of the year, then I'll be excited. But right now it's too early. We had a great win the other night, and now we gotta follow it up. We got to play really well tomorrow night.
First time the league has had 3 in the top 25 since 2013.
That's awesome, and I'm glad about that. To show how good the Mountain West Conference is, basketball wise, and I would argue, Nevada should be in there too. Nevada should be in there too, and it's a brutal league, and I'm glad the league's getting the respect it deserves.
It's getting its respect, and Nevada is very close to getting into the top 25. We'll see how well they do this week, but it's in the in the AP, they're knocking on the door. They're 27th effectively.
Yeah, something like that. They were one of the.
And in the other one, they're 30th. So they got a little bit of ground to make up, but still, it's a great league. Wyoming, kind of an interesting team, and look, Coach Sprinkle has proven that he gets his guys focused and ready to face their opponent, whether they're 200 in the net or 10 in the net.
Yeah, I caught a bit of their practice when they were prepping for Air Force, and they're going hard, harping on the different things that Air Force was doing, all the different cuts and things like that, and they were down to pretty specific details of how you're trading off and switching and things like that. And they're going to bring that kind of intensity to prepping for Wyoming. And when you saw what they did with the Air Force prep, let them do a 28-point victory on the road in a tough place to play. So if they maintain that same level of intensity they did against Air Force, and we're going to have to see if they have that, because back in the old days of all of last week, they were still this, underdog, unrecognized team. Well, now they're a very recognized team that is a favorite and expected to do well in the conference now. How are they going to respond to that kind of publicity? Are they still going to keep that same mindset? If they do, they're going to keep rolling. Yeah,
to this point, they've been kind of the team that was kind of cobbled together and kind of plucky and exciting, and we're just figuring out how to play together, and gosh, if we win some games, that's great. And now it's like, okay, yeah, you've won some games. You're a good team. Everybody knows who you are now, and we're going to keep hearing about how this team had no returning points and rebounds and all that stuff still for a few more weeks. But now everybody's more aware of Utah State. So the target is squarely on their back, and teams are going to come and give the Aggies their best and try to take down a ranked team, because that's a big mark on your resume if you can do that.
Yeah, the Aggies, they were certainly wanting respect, wanting to prove that they can earn their way in the Mountain West. Well, they've done that.
They've done that. Now can you play from ahead?
Yeah, now as Coach Sprinkle harped on all weekend and into Monday, rent is due.
Yes, it doesn't. You don't own it. It's you are constantly having to pay the rent. All right, we're going to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. A lot of texts have come through. We will get to those. Appreciate your patience as we talk about Utah State and Wyoming tonight. Pre-game coverage on our sister station will begin at 6 on 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU Game Day coverage with Al Lewis and Jalen Moore. Full play-by-play on that station. And when the game is over, Al Lewis, Jalen Moore, and John Russell taking your phone calls and your texts to break down what happened tonight in the Spectrum. A quick time out here in the Full Court Press. We'll be right back.
They say diamonds are a girl's best friend, particularly when she's thinking of marriage. When it comes to this important decision, visit S. Needham Jewelers in historic downtown Logan. We have been the part of thousands of happy engagements. You'll enjoy our vast selection of beautiful and unique engagement rings. You'll also enjoy our relaxed and elegant environment. You'll not be hurried, and you'll feel no pressure as you have fun looking for the perfect ring. Where Utah gets engaged. S. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Nearly 21 years ago, Cafe Sabor opened their doors in historic Logan train station. With the help of hundreds of amazing employees and patronage of thousands of wonderful customers, Cafe Sabor is proud to have been voted 3 years in a row Cache Valley's favorite Mexican restaurant in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Follow Cafe Sabor on social media for giveaways and promotions. Search Cafe Sabor for a restaurant near you. Thank you, Cache Valley, from your friends at Cafe Sabor.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Check out the new Liberty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in beautiful Montpelier, Idaho. We've got friendly staff, great service, fresh inventory, and the same values you expect in a small town. Montpelier, Idaho, a small town with great people to serve you, the people of Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. You can now see most inventory online too at libertycdjr.com. We're the new Liberty Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Montpelier with warranty forever.
It's a new year and an opportunity to plan for the future. That's what we're doing here, the Cache Valley Media Group. We're in the middle of a significant upgrade in the technology we use to bring our community the best of local news, weather, sports, music, and entertainment. But in the process of doing that, we may encounter a few bumps in our programming along the way. We assure you, we're aware, and our team is working very hard to make our transition as seamless as possible. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for listening to this radio station. And from all of us at the Cache Valley Media Group, we hope you have a great 2024.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Love the texts coming through. We'll get to those. 435-339-0321 for those who want to chime in. We got a number of those. We will get to those, so hang tight. But before we do that, before we get to the texts, about this time on Tuesdays, we like to step aside from whatever talk is going on to highlight the success of the local athletes, the high school athletes. Cache Valley Media Group Prep Player of the Week out of Region 11, as voted on by our panel of judges. That's its official title.
Yeah. Well, it also has presented by McDonald's in there.
And presented by McDonald's, yes.
I don't know if either of us have ever gotten the full title correctly. It is a mouthful, but it obviously encapsulates what it is. You got to get the full name. But yeah, this week the boys and girls players of the week. You have on the girls side Ridgeline guard Elise Livingston. She's the co-star of Emily Skinner. She's a very good player in her own right, and obviously showing that this week. Had back-to-back 20-point games and tough wins over. I shouldn't say tough wins. Impressive wins.
Impressive wins.
They were like blowout wins.
Blowouts.
So they weren't necessarily tough. But she averaged 22.5 points throughout the entire week. Had, I think, a couple steals, a couple assists per game as well. And she also hit 9 3-pointers throughout the 2 games. That's a big part of why she was able to average 22.5 points. So very impressive week there from Elise Livingston. And then on the boys' side, you have a player who I've been keeping an eye on. I felt like he's not gotten enough recognition. Caden Hess, the forward from Mountain Crest. And I'll get to see him front and center. I get a call to the Logan Mountain Crest game on Friday when Caden Hess takes on the Grizzlies. But Hess had a career-high 28 points. Mountain Crest only played 1 game last week. That was against Hunter. He was like 77-58, I think. And Hess was the star of the show there with his 28 points. As I said, a career high. It's his 2nd straight 20-point game, and he's obviously been the catalyst. One of the catalysts at least, but one of the biggest ones, averaging about 18 points per game, is Mountain Crest. Has gone 9-3 through non-region play. So
yeah, very impressive start for the Mustangs, team that had a lot of players coming back from last year's team, which seemed like they were improving, but seemed to struggle to get the victories like they wanted. But this year it seems to be coming together at a lot better clip for the Mustangs. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, them and Green Canyon have a lot in common. And last year they were kind of bottom of the table. You could see that potential, but hadn't quite put it together. This year both teams clearly have done so. And Mountain Crest actually, talk about scoring, but defensively, they are great. They're like 3rd and 4A in points allowed per game. So it's going to be tough going through any of these teams going through Mountain Crest. They're going to go through a slog playing a very good Mountain Crest team.
Yeah, I'm excited for Friday. Now, we do have 2 games that are on the schedule tonight. Green Canyon had a game that they added. They're becoming famous for this, adding a last-minute game. They did that with Layton Christian. They did that last week. Who was it with last week? Stansbury? I don't even remember. I was entertaining Germans when this happened. And then they got a game tonight taking on Park City. The game will be in Park City. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get that game covered on Cache Valley Daily or on local radio. But Ridgeline is playing tonight, and they are hosting Weber. So Weber is making their tour through Region 11. There's several teams who have played Weber, and Ridgeline is next in line to take on the Warriors.
Yeah, Weber took on Bear River, and if I remember, handled them pretty well. They got to host Bear River, if I'm not mistaken. They then traveled to Logan, lost a very narrow game. Ended up having a game-winning shot. Court Larson adding to his list of game-winning shots that he's made for the Grizzlies. Logan won that one 60-58. And then, Weber coming to Ridgeline. I think that's the only other Region 11 team they've played, because they played Logan and Bear River. Maybe there's another one.
Checking the Masters.
Yeah, I need to double check that because I could be wrong there. But yeah, Ridgeline, another good team, and Weber, they are a good team up there in 6A, right?
I believe they are a 6A school. Yeah, Bear River went there. Logan hosted them, and now Ridgeline is hosting them. So yeah, those 3 schools.
Yeah, so it's a very tough team. They've got a kid that's Hunter Shank, who's signed to play with Utah Tech. They've got another couple athletic big men. Malachi Spencer, pretty athletic, 6'6" kid. in the post. So some tough matchups, but I think Ridgeline's certainly up to the task there.
So that game will be on 104.5 The Ranch with Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger on the call. Also video streaming on CashValleyDaily.com. Quick timeout here on the Full Court Press. When we come back, we'll get to your texts and some big news for Utah State football as the transfer portal is it's giving and it's also taking.
Yeah, it's giving, and it's giving a lot to the Aggies. It's taking away a little.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. And also, it's going to be a busy night throughout the Mountain West Conference, so we'll tell you about other key games going on tonight throughout the Mountain West Conference in men's basketball. That's all ahead next on the Full Court Press.
Don't get caught without power to your home or business. This is Tyler with Golden Spike Electric. We offer Generac backup generators to keep your home or business warm, avoiding frozen pipes, loss of valuable food, or even a flooded basement. Golden Spike Electric is certified and factory trained, so you know it will be installed right and properly maintained. Contact Golden Spike Electric so you'll never be without power again. Online at gsegenerators.com. We also service other brands, Golden Spike Electric and Generac, power you can count on.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
It's never too late or too cold to get rid of that old vehicle. Now is the time to earn extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Open enrollment for individual health insurance is November 1st through January 15th. Coverage through the marketplace is available with more tax credits. You could save a bunch. If you haven't qualified in the past, try again now. We will help you navigate the marketplace, understand your choices, and complete enrollment. Trying it on your own can be frustrating. Let us help. Call 752-9493. There is no cost to work with us. Having a local agent makes all the difference. Call 752-9493.
Finding effective and affordable insurance solutions can be stressful. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. As a kid growing up, my father, Gordon, took care of my insurance, and I knew I never needed to worry. I was covered. I've continued to provide that same service for my clients at Quality First. My team of experienced agents work hard to ensure every customer gets the help they need. Let's sit down and take the stress out of your insurance. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Four 339-0321. If you want to chime in and join the Full Court Press text line, a number of texts that came through, some even before the show began. So thanks for your patience as we get to those. We'll get into more detail on some of these answers next hour, but we'll try to address some of them quickly just to give you an answer. But some of these will have more detail next hour, so hang with us. But 5452 texting in before the show began. Thoughts on the Bryson Barnes signing for the football team? Bring the Utah playbook for sure since we play them in the fall. Just hope it isn't a Jason Shelley situation where he thinks he's better than everyone else just because he played at Utah. Yeah, so news today, Bryson Barnes, who filled in and was elevated to the starting quarterback at the University of Utah, has announced that he's coming to Utah State, the quarterback.
Yeah, he is. That's a big signing, and we'll get into it because it's going to create an interesting situation at quarterback. But anyway, with the Jason Shelley situation, it's like people – like that obviously didn't turn out well because he ended up losing I had his name and I just lost it.
Andrew Peasley?
No, the He was backing up Jordan Love for a couple of years.
He didn't back up anybody, but he came in after Jordan Love left.
No, not Peasley. It was the guy who transferred to Texas Tech.
Oh, Henry Columby.
Yeah, Columby.
Yes.
Because he ends up transferring after Shelley comes in. But the thing is,
that's
like,
true.
Yeah, it didn't work out there. Like, if you're a coach like Blake Henderson, you ever turn down a guy who's interested in coming. And I know there's criticism there because people say, oh, you shouldn't have brought him on because that drove other people away and it didn't work out. It's like, no. Bring a guy in, and if that scares the people off, then I don't know if you want those people there anyway because they're scared of competition.
Yeah, the problem with what happened with Jason Shelley was that Gary Anderson brought him on and basically said, you're my guy, without even having a competition to see if you really deserve to be the guy. And it was a disaster.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be the case here because you got 4 quarterbacks who they've all got. It's probably more 3 quarterbacks, depending. We'll get into this, but
yes.
it's suddenly
crowded,
is interesting.
Very talented quarterback room. 2444 texting, and this is turning into quite the interesting quarterback room at USU. Still hope to see Coop keep the starting job. But I'd be curious to hear either of your early depth chart projections.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to give a depth chart projection now. I probably need to dive into more and actually watch some film on some of these guys. I've seen highlight videos of the kid from Iowa and Barnes now. So I need to actually watch the film and see what I think of these guys instead of – because obviously I've seen Cooper Legas about every pass of his career. But.
Right. And you have to keep in mind, how does this player fit – with how Blake Anderson wants to run the offense?
Yeah.
That was part of the issue this season, back and forth with the quarterback position. And we'll get into more of that next hour, so stay tuned. 8798. It'll be very interesting to see how well Bryce and Barnes can throw a football. So it'll be a totally different offense than what he's accustomed to. Yes.
Yeah. I think so. Him and Spencer Petras, they're both coming from offenses that, I don't know, they're both places that aren't known for their offense. They're more known for their defense. You suddenly come to a place where it's probably better wide receivers, more dynamic wide receivers, especially relative to the type of cornerbacks you're going up and defenses you're going up against.
Yeah.
And so both of those guys could end up having the kind of absolute breakout season that's borderline record-breaking, similar to Logan Bonner. Logan Bonner wasn't a super remarkable quarterback at Arkansas State.
No.
And then he had a record-breaking season at Utah State. Rewrote the record book for like the 3rd time in a decade. We've seen quarterbacks do that at Utah State. So they both could have those breakout seasons despite their stats.
Right, and it's hard to know. Players, quarterbacks in systems that aren't totally reliant on the quarterback coming into a situation here where the quarterback obviously does play a much larger role in the offense and the overall team success. Is it an opportunity to become free of the shackles that weighed you down in your previous location, or is it just too much and it's just out of your element, out of your comfort zone from what you've been used to? So that's why this spring is going to be fascinating for Utah State football.
Yeah, definitely.
5338 texting in. The 5338 Sports Reeducation Academy and Think Tank AI prediction engine says the Aggies will win 84-66. I like that. That's quite the prediction engine there. I like the title there. Speaking of titles.
Ken Palm's prediction has the Aggies winning 82-66.
Ooh.
I think 5338's plagiarizing. His AI engine is stealing from Ken Palm.
It's keeping an eye on what Ken Pomeroy says. Aggies are favored by 15.5.
Just change the size so it doesn't look like I'm copying you.
Close.
But
not exactly.
That's reasonable to think the Aggies can win by dang near 20 points. They should. That's the kind of, Aggies are obviously really good. Wyoming struggling a little bit. They don't score a ton of points. The Aggies have a really great defense. They force a ton of turnovers. They have the potential to hold Wyoming under 60. I don't necessarily think that'll happen, but, and the Aggies can obviously score above 80. Wyoming doesn't have the greatest defense. I don't think we'll go too far into it, but lot of these guys have good offensive potential, but their defense is not sticking around. They're like sub 200, I think, in Ken Palm's defensive metrics. So that's a very realistic score.
5338 says Ken Palm is plagiarizing me. Ken Palm is looking at the 5338 Sports Reeducation Academy and Think Tank AI prediction engine.
There you go.
Very good. Thank you, 5338. 9315 texting in. A couple of texts here. I'm going to do my best. Oh, okay. Now I get it. Bacon NIL. Here we come. Signed the Utah pork producers. Football and bacon, a great combo. You know, Bryson Barnes, famously known to be a pig farmer.
Yep.
And then what do the Aggies have to do tonight to help the at-large resume?
Well, there's nothing you can do tonight.
Nothing you can do tonight other than win.
Unless you beat them by 40. That'll help your net ranking. That's about all it'll do.
That large resume, win and win comfortably.
Yeah, win comfortably or win in style, because the net cares about style points. Because that's the thing. You win close games, not going to help you a ton. And, of course, the thing is, at this point where the Aggies are at, they're not really going to move much higher in the net. Like, it's crowded at the top.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of teams ahead of you are losing.
It's very conceivable that Utah State could play and beat Wyoming and move down.
Yeah, that's especially if they don't win by a lot. Like I said, style points matter to the net. So
yeah.
And when you play a team that's lower in strength of schedule, even beating them, it lowers your own strength of schedule.
Yeah, when you play a weak team, doesn't really help you.
So,
unless you beat them by a nice, comfortable margin.
So yeah, the only thing that's helping the Aggies in their at-large is just don't lose. Keep that win streak going. It's currently the second longest active win streak. I think Houston's the only one that's longer at this point. So just don't lose.
That's always a good strategy.
I've known a lot of people try to follow that strategy. It's worked for a lot of people.
1181 worked for Michigan. 1-1 in football. 1181. Not excited at all about Barnes. If your starter is from Milford, not good.
What if your
why are you hating on Milford?
What if your star point guard's from nowhere, Wyoming?
Yes.
Like J.C. Carroll was.
Yeah. Don't be hating on the small towns. They still produce amazing talent.
Wayne S.
Anaconda, Montana.
Yeah, Wayne S. is from nowhere, Montana.
Come on.
It's like, I know, I'm sure that's just a joke. But
Yeah.
Pig farmers, they always joke about football players and offensive linemen being pig farmers. Guess they don't talk about the quarterbacks being the pig farmer.
Yeah, that's right. So before we take another timeout, just a quick look at the rest of the Mountain West tonight, because it's a busy schedule throughout the Mountain West Conference. Let's see, we've got a couple of 7 o'clock games, an 8 o'clock game. There are some nationally televised games tonight. At 8:30, New Mexico is at UNLV on FS1. And at 9, 19th ranked San Diego State is at San Jose State on CBS Sports Network. But the one I'm keeping my eye on the most, number 17, Colorado State at Boise, 7 o'clock tonight. Colorado State favored by 1.5. This could be a really interesting game. How does Colorado State respond after what happened in Logan? This is their second game on the road against what could be a good environment. Boise State's not known to be to the level of Utah State, but they're a pretty decent home crowd. They've improved over the last 5-6 years. So how does Colorado State respond to the loss in Logan? And Boise State is a pretty solid team, even though they have 4 losses on the year so far.
Yeah, this is a chance for Boise State to kind of get back some of the prestige that they lost a little bit of in non-region, where they kind of non-conference, where they kind of fell behind with a couple of losses. They bumped down to like the 60s, 70s in a bunch of different ratings, Ken Palm and whatnot. So this is their chance to kind of regain the, like, hey, look, we're a good team. I mean, they're 10-4. And I keep banging the drum of Boise State being a dangerous team. And this is a chance for me to either be proven right or proven wrong, I guess. But for Colorado State, obviously, it's this is obviously going to be, by the end of non-conference play, this was identified as this is going to be a really tough stretch going to Utah State notoriously hard to play, and Utah State was obviously showing themselves to be a good team. And then Boise State, it's a tough venue. It's a good team. So clearly this is their tough stretch. They do not want to go 0-2 during this stretch because that starts bumping them close to being out of the top 25.
They may totally fall out of the top 25.
So they need to be able to get this game to kind of stabilize themselves. Because they lose this game, then who knows? It might start falling apart a little bit. But I think Colorado State, I talked about just how elite their offense is. I don't know if Boise State's going to be able to do the same thing to Colorado State that Utah State was able to do. But maybe. We'll find out tonight. I think this is clearly the best game in conference tonight.
Yes.
I think.
And sadly, it's not one that's nationally televised.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And so, well, that's one worth keeping an eye on tonight as you're in the Spectrum. Pull it up on your phone, your mobile device, can see what the score is and how it's going. And then later tonight, after the game, you'll be able to check in on New Mexico at UNLV, which could be interesting. New Mexico is favored by 2.5, and San Diego State at San Jose. Aztecs favored by 10.5.
Yeah, the New Mexico UNLV is mildly interesting, mostly to just see, where is UNLV exactly? And can New Mexico bounce back a little bit from a slightly rough week last week? Slightly rough. They lost to Colorado State. That was the rough part of the week.
Yeah, but a future opponent for Utah State coming up this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see just how legit UNLV is because they were seen, I think, as better than they've performed. They're sitting at 7-6. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised at this point. Every year UNLV is supposed to be a breakout because they signed this guy, and this guy is supposed to be really good, and this transfer guy, and it's the same every year.
All right, we got to take another timeout. We have a few more texts going in. We'll get to those. And coming up on the other side, we'll share the stat that blew our minds and our player of the week. It's next on the Full Court Press.
Happy New Year! You survived the holidays. This is Jarek at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Did you meet the family during the holidays? How was that? Is it time to go engagement ring shopping? Valentine's Day is coming, but why wait? Do it now. Bring her in and view our collection of over 3,000 rings. With many of them being our own custom designs, I know we will find the perfect one. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we make it special. So come make it Jarek.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Let's start the new year right with a huge winter clearance at Daryl's Appliance. You know Daryl's for their scratch and dent appliances. Now save an extra 10% off. They just got a fresh new load. And they have selected display appliances marked down to move fast. Plus, get 12 months financing on your purchase through January. But wait, there's more. Book a service call online and get a $15 discount. Only at Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road.
Every question is a great question at Adams Wealth Advisors. Do we have enough money for retirement? Can we finally plan that trip? With the ups and downs of the economy, are our portfolios recession-proof?
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with online bed-in-a-box mattresses. If value is the combination of price and quality, these beds are not a good value. They cost about $1,000 and they last about 3 years. That's not a very good ratio. At My Mattress, you can get a $799 Sealy Posturepedic that will last you 10 plus years. The best value is at My Mattress. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
Spice up the winter blues with a delicious outing to Logan's first family-friendly brew pub, Prodigy Brewing. Excited to announce their success at the 2023 Tasting Alliance World Beer Competition. Prodigy Brewing won 3 of the highest medals. Prodigy invites you to try their juicy burgers, sizzling wood-fired pizzas, tasty salads, bar bites, and kids menu. Prodigy Brewing is in downtown Logan, proud to be one of Logan's vibrant downtown food and beverage destinations. Prodigy Brewing, extraordinary service and family-friendly.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hey, how about earning a $20 Visa gift card when you purchase one qualifying Napa Legend or Napa Legend Premium AGM battery, or earn a $25 Visa card when you purchase one qualifying AAA Premium battery? That offer expires January 31st, so only a few more weeks, and you can do that at locally owned Preston and Providence Napa Auto Parts stores. So it's a Tuesday. And on Tuesdays, we like to dive into the numbers and highlight some of the players. Call it the stat that blew our minds and our player of the week.
Let's take a look at the numbers. It's the stat that blew our minds.
He did what?
On the Full Court Press.
Wow, that blew my mind.
All right, Jason, you got a stat that blew your mind this week?
Yeah, it's kind of spanning a couple of different weeks, but just kind of the culmination where it's the Jazz are 8-2 in their last 10 games. And you'd have asked me, a couple months ago, I think the 8-2 stretch started with the game on December 21st. One of the first wins against the Pistons in this run. And yeah, the 8-2, it's tied with the Nuggets for the best stretch in the last 10 games, at least in the Western Conference. And even more mind-blowing about this is kind of what I look at it, is like, you had the 76ers and Bucks. Now, I know there's kind of big asterisks next to those two wins because it was without Joel Embiid and without Damian Lillard. But you told me that in a 3-game stretch where they faced the Celtics, 76ers, and Bucks, they'd be 2-1. I'd be like, what are you smoking again?
What drugs are you on, and can I have some?
Did you go back in time and bring John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Pete Maravich to this game and have them play? But yeah, just the Jazz playing a lot better, which is, frankly, blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, playing very good right now. A lot of confidence on that team. For me, looking at Utah State men's basketball team, in their games this last week in conference play, points from free throws accounted for 25% of overall scoring against Air Force, about 26% of overall scoring against Colorado State. For the Rams, in their win against New Mexico, free throws accounted for about 23%, almost 24% of their overall scoring. But against Utah State, only 5.55%.
4 free throws, 72 points.
Not very much. So the point here is Utah State doing a great job of getting to the free throw line. Not particularly awesome at Air Force, but they still made quite a few. But they were great against Colorado State, and they needed to be, and they were.
Yeah, and I think the more mind-blowing thing of that is the Aggies have had some good free throw shooting games. It was more just that Colorado State went 4 of 11. I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yes, very mind-blowing. All right, and now for our player of the week.
Time to see who the real MVP is.
If you have a good game, your game is going to say that. You don't have to say it.
Puts a lot of cool things in perspective anytime you're the first time doing something.
It's the Full Court Press Player of the Week.
Let's go!
All right, Jason Walker, who stood out to you this last week?
I wanted to be more original than this, but can I give it to anybody else but Great Osborne? 32 points against Air Force, 20 against Colorado State. Good for about, 26 points per game on the week. 11.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a block, a steal per game. Hit 18 free throws?
18 free throws.
On like 24 attempts. So, look, there's other players I could have gone with, but I just can't turn my nose up at Great Osborne after this great week that he had. Absolutely fantastic from him in those 2 games.
And I just have to give an amen to that. I mean, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 0 turnovers at Air Force. 20 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, only 1 turnover against Colorado State. This is a guy that earlier in the season had a turnover problem. And now in conference play, in his 2 games this week, only 1 turnover in 2 games. Fantastic.
Yeah, there was a point this season where I think he was averaging 4+ turnovers a game.
4 or 5. Yeah.
Now he's down to about 3.5, and as you mentioned, 1 turnover in 2 games. Really, over the last 4 games, he's maxed out at 3 turnovers.
Yeah, so. He's really cleaned up his game that way. but just his footwork, the pressure he puts on opposing defenses in the low post, getting to the free throw line, which affects the game later in the game because guys start to get fouls and they defend differently when they've got a lot of fouls on the stat sheet, and so they have to change a little bit how they defend Great Osobor.
Yeah, it's gonna be a running theme throughout all of conference play. It's something I was expecting Osobor to do because he came in like I was able to notice even in lower minutes he saw how much he drew fouls, and I was hoping that he would do that, and he very much has.
Yes. Quickly before we go to break, 9315, seeing there's lots of professionals that have made a lot of money from Milford in the sports world, and don't hate on Milford. Send us a link to Stetson Wright, who has done very well in professional rodeo.
There you go.
Yes. So good things can come from Milford, and we'll talk a lot more about that next hour here on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Jim Harbaugh is a winner. After inheriting a 1-11 team in 2007, he turned Stanford into an Orange Bowl champ. He brought the Niners to the Super Bowl after a disastrous stint under Mike Singletary. And last night, he officially completed the turnaround of his alma mater as Michigan took down Washington for the national title. Harbaugh's won everywhere he's gone, but that's not what makes the coach so impressive. It's his ability to change the culture for the better. Prior to his arrival in Ann Arbor, Michigan struggled under Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez. Harbaugh has since led the team to 6 double-digit winning seasons and just completed an undefeated year, all the while missing 6 games due to suspensions. Say what you want about the reason behind those suspensions, but the team's success without him is a testament that he's built something special at Michigan. And if you're a struggling NFL franchise, maybe that's exactly the type of coach who can turn your franchise around. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.